Brian Stelter may be the worst guy in cable news. And I know that's a lot to say because you got Don Lemon, you've got Chris Cuomo, you got Rachel Maddow. We get it. But the reason I say that Brian Stelter may be the worst is that while you have those other personalities who lie, and often it's obvious they're lying or they're saying nonsensical things, Brian Stelter is the guy who goes on TV and tells you not to watch other shows. He's the guy who goes on TV and claims it's only everyone else. He's actually the smart and the good one. Now, Don Lemon and Cuomo and the rest of them, yeah, they do this too. And of course, Tucker Carlson is also very critical of MSNBC. But Tucker has his opposition on his show. Tucker wants to bring on Antifa, and he wants to bring on Democrats, and he wants to argue with them. Often they don't really engage in a good conversation, but many do. Brian Stelter, on the other hand, doesn't have any of these personalities. It's a homogenous bubble world of paranoid delusions. He sucks up to Jen Psaki. It's really awful. Now, I know. I can rag on the guy all day and night. I do know him. I've met him a couple times at various events. And I got some good news for all of you. It's always a bit pessimistic. We're always looking at what's going on, and it seems like things are getting bad. Sometimes there are really, really bad things. That's true. But sometimes there's some good things, like this story from Fox News. CNN's Brian Stelter roasted by C-SPAN callers. Biggest minister of misinformation I have ever heard. My suggestion is whatever CNN says, do the opposite and you'll do fine. Bravo. Bravo. Good sirs. They're right, of course. But I love it. Are people calling into C-SPAN to say, Brian Stelter, you are just the bastion of truth. We're so grateful that you go on TV and just shower us with your truth. No. People called in and said, bro, you lie. You lie all the time. CNN's ratings are in the trash and getting worse. And this is why. It's the only thing they can grasp onto. Now, I love it. Let's be fair. My ratings are down. Everybody's ratings are basically down. I think Tucker Carlson's the only one who kind of maintained, but he did lose a ton of viewers in that big Fox News election night thing, but he's really maintained a lot of his audience. My views have gone down a bit. A lot of people on the right aren't happy with my opinions. Well, so be it. I'm not going to lie. Now, of course, tribalists think I'm always lying. So it is what it is. I'm going to tell you what I think. Hey, guess what? I'm kind of a centrist. CNN? No, they're going to chase the dragon. They're going to keep chasing after trying to pander to people who hate Trump. And that means they're going to keep lying. They're going to keep lying to keep people who hate Trump wrapped up in that tight little ball. It doesn't work. Let's read the story from Fox News. They say, CNN's Brian Stelter was mocked by callers who referred the media pundit as the minister of misinformation and evoked disgraced former CNN darling Michael Avenatti during an appearance on C-SPAN. Quote, Mr. Stelter is the biggest minister of misinformation I have ever heard, and I'm a news junkie, is a caller identified as Kevin from Indiana. This gentleman told the American people and his news organization for 4 years that there was Russian collusion. And actually, after all the $35 to $40 million and government investigation, we come to find out there was zero collusion from the Trump administration in Russia. His stories absolutely evolve. Stelter, who was regularly lampooned and often referred to as the media's hall monitor, was polite when faced with direct criticism. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it, Stelter said. I mean, look, good for Stelter for actually going on C-SPAN and opening himself up to this. A separate caller identified as Gordon in Kansas asked Stelter to admit he and his network are a bunch of liars about Donald Trump. Callers weren't done attacking Stelter, as Rick from Georgia then brought up one of CNN's most embarrassing blunders. I was just wondering if you still feel like Michael Avenatti is the greatest thing in the world and should run for the president of the United States. My suggestion is whatever CNN says, do the opposite and you'll do fine. It's true. CNN has just been, it's been all fake news. The other day we talked about the Lafayette Square protest. IG report comes out and says Trump did not have the protests cleared so that he could do a photo op. It was actually kind of the inverse. Trump did a photo op because they had already cleared the protests. They were planning on putting up some barriers or some fencing due to some of these protests. It was pre-planned and pre-scheduled. And then Trump came out and took a photo. I remember talking to family members. Right? Trump did a photo op. And I'm like, that's not true. Yeah, well, if you listen to Brian Stelter, you got your head up your bum and you have no idea what's happening in the real world. They say Stelter famously told Avenatti on air in 2018, one of the reasons why I'm taking you seriously as a 2020 contender is because of your presence on cable news. Avenatti was a CNN regular. Yeah, we get it. I don't care about Avenatti. They say a 2018 Media Research Center study revealed that Avenatti appeared on CNN a whopping 74 times over a 10-week period. At the height of Avenatti's fame, he spent his rare time away from CNN's green room, partying with the network's anchors. And full disclosure, I actually considered Avenatti as a potential candidate as well. And it was because the Democrats were desperately looking for a counter-Trump, a high-profile, bombastic personality that hated Trump that they could use. So it wasn't about politics, and maybe Brian Stelter wasn't wrong in that regard, I guess. But the only reason he was a possible contender is because they kept propping him up. Stelter dismissed the caller, claiming he almost forgot how to say Avenatti's name because he's been out of the news for so long, and claimed a right-wing meme of the CNN host sipping coffee while chatting with the former lawyer keeps the story alive. It becomes an attack point to make fun of people like me out of context, Stelter said. Another caller said Stelter was shameless, while another caller called CNN a joke. The liberal CNN host smiled through much of the criticism, often defending his network in the process. Brian Stelter, as I said, quite possibly one of the worst people on cable news, because he's the one who acts like they're the arbiters of truth and everyone else is lying. And he's just state propaganda. That's what he does. He says Fox News is state propaganda. Then you take a look at his interview with Jen Psaki and you're like, well, this guy clearly is not going to ask any real questions. Meanwhile, Fox News gets slammed because they weren't walking in lockstep with Trump. Sorry, if you were to come, I'll tell you this. It's the exception in the rule, right? Fox News has its problems, but it's the exception, not the rule. Fox tends to have some good coverage. Brett Baer is pretty good. Tucker Carlson's pretty good. And then they have some pundits who do some bad things, but it's the exception, not the rule. MSNBC and CNN, it's the rule, not the exception. The Democrats live in a paranoid, psychotic state on par with the QAnon people, believing absolutely insane things for insane reasons. There's a lot of Q people. None of them believe really crazy things. It's unfortunate. But they are not the mainstream Republicans. They are not mainstream Trump supporters. High-profile Trump supporters are not going around talking about Q. High-profile, prominent Democrats on TV talked about Russia for 4 years. They would not shut up. And the Democrats entertain this, and they do impeachment after impeachment. I mean, how many times until they just won't stop? They are truly insane. And this creates a very strange political world. I'm not a conservative by policy. I'm probably centrist, I probably agree with conservatives on a lot of things, probably lean left on some policy issues, but I also believe in objective reality. And if you actually look at the videos and look at the evidence, CNN is lying. And that's where we're at. Here we go, baby. Brian Stelter wrote this turd of a news story. We turned so far right, we went crazy how Fox News was radicalized by its own viewers. For the love of all that is holy, Brian, look in a mirror. What is wrong with you? Oh, you do it on purpose. Tucker Carlson will invite on Antifa and Democrats and leftists. The Five on Fox News has Juan Williams, and they're always arguing. If you watch Fox News, you could even see a Bernie Sanders town hall. Perfect network? Of course not. CNN, gutter trash. And people like Brian Stelter don't deserve to have jobs. Here we go. Oh, it's fantastic. When Donald Trump lost the presidency last November, Fox News lost too. But unlike Trump, Fox has never been in denial about its loss. The network's executives had multi-million-dollar stars stared the ratings in the face, and their multi-million-dollar stars every day, and saw that their pro-Trump audience was reaching to the prospect of President Biden by switching channels or turning off the TV. We're bleeding eyelids, a Fox producer remarked in December, and we're scared. I'll point something out for y'all. CNN's ratings are just aflame. Here we go. Debut of Unfiltered with Dan Bongino helps Fox News outdraw CNN and MSNBC for the 16th straight week. About that. CNN needs Obama for ratings boost after liberal network failed to reach 1 million viewers for 6 days straight. Tucker Carlson earned more than double the viewers than CNN in Obama's interview. Okay, Fox News is doing a lot better than CNN. That's simple, isn't it? Now, it's really funny when you see the likes of Brian Stelter writing about this stuff, acting as though CNN isn't on fire. Fox News is losing viewers, they write. It's like, okay, well, have you considered that you're losing more viewers and everybody's ratings went down? This is what I love the most. I love there's people on the left and the right coming at me right now being like, Tim's views are down. Well, yeah, I mean, the election cycle's over. I am an individual who does culture and politics, and we're in the off season. I'm not surprised. We had a massive burst last year. It was one of the biggest presidential campaigns ever. CNN saw that. Fox News saw it. Fox's viewership has gone down, but still remains very strong. My viewership has gone down, but still remains very strong. And I'll point out, I have these people on the left and the right, like I mentioned, attacking my viewership. It's like, dude, I cut my segments in half. I stopped producing half of the content I used to produce. So yeah, my viewership is down, but I mean, it is what it is. You'd expect that. Also, what I'm trying to do right now, because of people like Brian Stelter, let me tell you this. Brian has inspired me. He's inspired me. Go to timcast.com, become a member. CNN has inspired me to step up and do more. I can't just be a guy on YouTube for 20, 30, 40 years. I can't do it. There's got to be more. Eventually, you reach the point at which there's a market cap or market saturation, and it doesn't make sense for me to just keep doing videos like this. It doesn't. So at the beginning of the year, I decided to cut down on half the segments I produce. I would do 6. Now I do 3 per day. And that resulted in a serious decline in overall viewership. But I don't consider that an actual ratings decline. It's just less content. Of course, grifters are trying to say, aha, look, Tim's views are gone. And it's like, I mean, a lot of them are down, generally speaking. Yeah, that's to be expected when you're not in the political season. But a lot of it is just due to the fact that I've reduced my content. And why did I reduce it? We launched the vlog because we want to make culture. We have to be for something, and we have to be inspirational. We can't just be trash like CNN's Brian Stelter constantly complaining about Fox News. I can't just be constantly complaining about CNN. And I do it a lot. Fair point. Complain about the media all day and night. So I decided, you know what? It takes a lot of time to produce 3.5 to 4 hours of content. I believe in terms of political commentary, I was producing more content per day than anyone else. I think Glenn Beck was second with like 3 hours. I was doing like 3 hours and 45 minutes, and I reduced it. Now it's down to like, I think, what are we at? 3 hours and 20 minutes or something. So maybe it's still a lot, but it's not the same because I do the interview show. We do Timcast IRL, but we got to do something about this, right? Newsroom at timcast.com is launching soon because we have to be for something. I can sit here all day and night and complain about CNN, but what's anybody actually doing about it? You know what? I was thinking about this. Andrew Breitbart was doing something about it. Obviously, I don't agree with the guy entirely on his politics, but much so on his principles. And I didn't know a whole lot about him back then when he was producing Breitbart. I don't think Breitbart's the greatest thing in the world. I'm not trying to, prop up any network, but I will point out, here's a guy who slapped his name on it and started producing content, and he was growing and expanding quickly and fighting for something. And the media absolutely hates Breitbart. It's interesting. Breitbart.com, probably one of the first times Republicans had media and personalities demanding things. Right now, the Republican Party isn't for anything. No, I mean, seriously, you might say, like, here's their positions, but what are they demanding? The Democrats demand universal health care. They demand a complete overhaul of our healthcare system. Republicans, nothing. The Democrats demand a bunch in our cultural institutions and changes to our language. And Nancy Pelosi says we're not going to say men and women and things like that. The Republicans just say no. At a certain point, the Republicans need to say, here's what we are for. Here's what we are fighting for, and here's what we are doing. I don't like the Republican Party. I like the Libertarian Party a little bit better, but they're a little wacky. Dave Smith's cool guy. He's got a great video. I tweeted about it. So, Dave, you rock. We've had him on the show a couple times. Here's what we got to do. We can sit here and rag on CNN and Brian Stelter and all laugh and high-five each other. And then in 10 years, CNN will still be there in some weird, gross corporate form. And we'll be sitting there old and middle-aged going like, yeah, boy, I tell you what, that CNN's trash. And what do we have to show for it? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So here's what we're doing. Timcast.com newsroom launching soon. We've got some journalistic prospects coming out. We're going to interview, and we're going to start hiring people, and we're going to do field reporting. We're going to do original reporting and fact checking. We are going to build something. I think Breitbart is great in that regard, and there needs to be more. I don't want to say right-wing personalities. Maybe just like not woke and likes America. You don't have to love the country and hug the flag like Trump did, but you can certainly respect the country and what it gives you. That's what we need. We need to build things. We need to generate resources. We need to stop giving money to people who hate us. Stop giving money to these movies that are overly woke. Vote with your dollars. You see something that's trash, you don't buy it. Comics, they're in trouble. Maybe they'll fizzle out or get subsidized by some lunatics. And that's why they want communism. Because under communism, you have a command economy. And then the despots can just say, keep making woke comments, even though nobody wants it. Force people to read that trash. Or, like I mentioned on the show, I said, hey, we'll take manga. If you write graphic novels or you're making your own original, manga style comics or whatever, we'll take it. We'll publish it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build culture. We're going to counter CNN. We are going to launch a newsroom. We're going to make more podcasts. We're going to make sitcoms. We're going to make shows. And I started to wonder about this. The left is good at it. They keep doing it. They get venture capital. You get Vox. You get BuzzFeed. How many right-wing startups were comparable to Mike.com and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post? Breitbart? Yeah, Andrew Breitbart was like, I'm going to put up and do something. And where are the conservatives right now to do the same thing? You've got some high-profile conservative personalities. You've got high-profile personalities. And I wonder about some of this stuff, too. I understand it. It's not easy. It's not easy, right? So, let's take an individual like Joe Rogan, for instance. Joe certainly has the resources to hand off millions of dollars to anybody to start doing real news. Sounds simple. Joe's not a journalist, though, so I wouldn't expect that of him. What would happen if he hired someone who was actually really bad? I have some experience with that. So you really got to be heavily involved and oversee quality and assurance and vet the people you're hiring. And you've got to have hard restrictions and standards based on what they produce and what they're writing. Then you build a culture around factual and honest journalism. So Joe's a high-profile personality with resources who's very critical of the mainstream media and often talks about, the lies and the manipulations, but he's not in a good position outside of just potentially being an investor. So it doesn't make sense for him. But there are a bunch of other personalities. Man, I look, it's the craziest thing that people argue with me over this. There are how many conservative YouTubers who are making six figures? It's like, start growing your business. Here's the problem, man. I guess the right is just not good at it. Not so much the right, I guess, but it's like the anti-woke. Left and right is meaningless at this point. I don't even know what that means. But it's the anti-establishment. They're just not good at it. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's true. I'm not going to pretend like I'm particularly good at it, but I'm going to keep fighting. I am going to be pushing that boulder up the hill, and it's not going to. There's never a point at which we can rest. But maybe at a certain point, we can have something that will sustain itself and counter the lies. And we will have a fact-checking division. And we will tell people like Brian Stelter and Don Lemon, and even some of the people on Fox News who pump out their right-wing version of tribalism, we're going to say, no. I'll tell you the biggest challenge we have. People want to have their worldview confirmed to them, even if it's bad for them. So recently, you may have heard, I criticized Andy Ngo. A bit crass, I admit, probably should have worded it better. A lot of people didn't quite understand my position. So I'll eat that one, but I'll say I stand by my position that conservatives, people on the right, need to be leading the charge with their experience and not joining the fray. What do we get? A lot of the people who, so I'll put it this way. Does it make sense for me at this point to just do these YouTube videos and nothing else? No. That's why we launched timcast.com at the beginning of the year. Because I'm like, if all I do is make a video criticizing the media and calling out the lies and the wokeness, and that's all anyone else does, where does that leave us in 5-10 years? Well, eventually I retire and then gone. Can we build something sustainable? Use our knowledge and experience and access to expand the operation, to create 10, 100, 1,000 more commentators and shows, and start pushing back on the lies from the mainstream media. Create something comparable to the likes of Netflix and Hulu and Disney and Paramount. That's what I want to do. I want to have a website that produces news and commentary, a full multimedia enterprise. Not because I want to make money or anything. And it's just funny. I can criticize someone on the right. The conservatives say the exact same things on the left. You're a liar and a grifter. You just want money. No, I really don't. I really don't. So we make money. You go to timcast.com. You sign up to become a member. You get access to the members only section. We make money when you do that. Here's what we'll do with that money. We are going to expand the operation. We're going to hire people. We're going to create a newsroom. And the reason it's not going as fast as I'd like is because I'm the one who's doing all the QA and vetting. Plus, I'm hosting these shows. And that's when I realized there's got to be a certain point where I stop hosting these shows and start overseeing the expansion and stop being the individual in the fray. So what might happen in the future is that this channel and Tim Pool cease to be, or we change the content on them just for the sake of keeping the channels going. But Timcast IRL, I would continue to host, and then I would use more of my time to get other people producing content to do more shows and expand this and push back. That way in 10, 15, 20 years, when I'm unable to do this, what we end up getting is there will be an apparatus to challenge this establishment media. I'm probably never going to sell. I have no reason to take investors, none whatsoever. All the people who have signed up have given me the opportunity to expand the business without investment. And I'm not going to get anybody who's going to stand in my way. No investors are going to come in, no activists to tell me what to do. And that's what needs to happen. I don't want to own an infinity pool. I don't want to buy a Lambo or a Ferrari. Granted, to be fair, we do have skate parks here and everything, but let me just tell you, if you've seen the Cast Castle vlog, check it out, youtube.com/castcastle. Yeah, we got some skate parks, but I'll tell you why we did it. For one, obviously I love skating. I've been skateboarding for several decades. Recently, I've gotten more into inline just because it's something new and fun. And we're getting scooters and bikes because I want to make a multidisciplinary hangout space. We're going to be doing in-person live events where you as members can actually come. We're dealing with some issues before we can launch. That's kind of holding us up. But once again, I'm doing all the quality assurance, which makes it very difficult to move forward. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Snowball rolling down a hill. Here's why we do this. Do I want a skate park? Well, yeah, I do. I like ramps, right? But I also hung a Gadsden flag in the park where we want to do murals. We want young people to watch a video where people are having fun and being silly and playing music, and there's a Gadsden flag in the background. Then that little kid will see in their school when their woke lunatic teacher says, the Gadsden flag is a white supremacist symbol. He's going to go, no, it isn't. The castle guys, they just are skating around. There's people of all different races who hang out there. They have a Gadsden flag. You're lying to me. That's what we need. We need to build culture. We need to be for something. For the longest time, I have been on YouTube complaining. And I say, I'm just a guy who complains on the internet. And then people are like, what are you even doing about it, Tim? And even now people are like, why aren't you on the ground, Tim? I don't think my talents and abilities are best. I don't think I best serve people with my talents by just going into the fray and on the ground. I think I've got to use my resources, your support to build something, to take the system over, to push back, to create culture, which means, sure, yeah, we'll keep complaining about stuff. I'll keep pointing out Brian Stelter's a liar. Second, we will create culture. So we have the Cast Castle vlog. We're slow rolling. I think we have like 9 vlogs now. We want to get to the point where we're doing every single day a vlog. Not super easy to do, especially when I'm the one running everything. So I am spread very, very thin. And the next thing we want to do is we want to create a website that expands upon the complaints and things like that. And I say that somewhat facetiously, but doing real news. And that's the next bit. I'm trying to do all of these things. And I've got a great team, people working here. I think we've got a lot of employees. It's expanding. I'm hoping that we have, by the end of the year, maybe 50 employees or more. And I think once we start producing more content on the website, once we start producing more news and start bringing in opinion pieces from thought leaders and thinkers and individuals, we're going to have a mix of paywalled subscription-only content, and we're going to have free content and articles. The articles we'll have viral across social media, real on-the-ground reporting, calling up people, verifying things. When they say a story and it says, Donald Trump does backflip, hey, we'll call and say, we want to get a comment on this. Is it true you did a backflip? Then we'll publish that story. A lot of people say all Tim does is read other people's news. Hey, tell you what, fair point. However, I've been planning this for a long time. I don't need to read other people's news. We can fact check this ourselves. We can make the phone calls and then just read our own news. And that's what we'll do. And that's what will become of these channels for sure. And we'll use it to promote the website, and we'll use it to grow and expand and hire more journalists, create new operations, mini documentaries. The reason I'm talking about all this, again, you can become a member at timcast.com, but it's because I'm sick and tired of saying the same thing about Brian Stelter and CNN and Don Lemon and all this trash. I'm tired of doing a video. I'm like, oh, hey, look, we got to do something else. We have to build something. We can't just be standing there pointing the finger at the other side saying, you guys suck. We need to prove why we're good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build skate ramps and invite people out and say, hey, it's more fun over here. No one's going to cancel you. We're going to have the Gadsden flag. We're going to talk about freedom and individuality and independence and liberty. We're going to inspire young people to do the same. We're going to give people an opportunity. We're going to create a path to success that exists outside of the trash woke cult. And then people will maybe change their tunes. I hope to plant a seed whose shade I know I will never sit beneath. I want to make sure that right now, look, I've got my tree and I've got my shade with these channels, but it's not something that can be handed down. There's, if the only thing that exists of my work is just me and my thoughts, then when I eventually can't work or stop working or my work ceases, it's over. Nothing holding that place marker challenging these systems. We have to build it. You can support my work at timcast.com. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm trying to hire as many people. So in between these segments I record, I'm like reading emails and trying to find the right people. And I can only assume eventually my head's going to explode because spread very thin. I'll leave it there. I won't rant too much longer on this. But seriously, all of you guys who subscribe, who keep watching, who believe in the work that we are doing here at the Timcast Media company, and who are members at timcast.com, you are making this possible. And I will do my best to not let you down, but I will also assure you, we're not going to just give you what you want to hear. Yeah, I'm going to criticize people on the left and the right. Absolutely. I'll do it a little bit more tactfully, to be fair. Because it was my tweet against Andy was a bit harsh, considering I don't even tweet that harsh against people on the left sometimes. So I was just frustrated. I want to see the anti-establishment. I want to see the people challenging the woke succeed. And so it's frustrating sometimes. And I apologize for that. But I stand by my opinion. It's time for people on the right, people who are anti-woke, the intellectual dark web, to lead the charge, put the money down, start a news organization. Hey, come on. Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is extremely wealthy, and we know he opposes this trash. Bro, throw some money behind something. And you know what? To that extent, too, Joe Rogan. I'm not saying it's easy, easy for these guys to figure out who to throw money behind, because I'll tell you this, I don't want any investment from anybody. But there's got to be something people of resources can do to challenge this stuff. I'm going to do my best. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you all then.